Hey, today I'm going to talk about two shocking truths about the country of Mexico. Okay, two things I learned this past week about Mexico I was not expecting. Now, these shocking truths that I learned are actually realities in a large part of my day job with people I lead and the team I lead around the world because of the reality of the situation on the ground in the countries that they live in. And in those places, we're not shocked by it. But I was shocked by what I discovered this week about Mexico. Now, before I do, welcome to my channel. My name is Steve, and this is Enviado Global, where I talk about all things Christian related from a world view, from a global perspective. And as I get into this topic with Mexico, I just want to encourage you to put your comments in the comments section and let's engage whether you agree or disagree. Now, before I get into Mexico, I need to show you something. So every year, Open Doors, a nonprofit Christian organization that monitors persecution around the world against Christians, creates this list called the World Watch List. Now here's a map, okay? Here's a printed off map of the World Watch List. This watch list contains the top 50 countries that has the worst levels of persecution against Christians. Now, the things that are not surprising about this list is the number one spot, and that's North Korea, one of the most brutal dictators and regimes in the world, and they're just terrible. It's like pure evil. Okay, they have been number one for a very long time. What's also not surprising is the vast majority of these 50 countries are in what's known as are in a region that Christians refer to as the 1040 window. If you're not familiar with that, just Google it up. Use the numbers 10 and 40 and then window. Google it. There's lots of information on it. There's a short definition that's widely accepted about what it means, but it is an important area of the world for the Christian community. And so the vast majority of these 50 countries are in the 1040 window, so that's not surprising. Okay? The top 12 are all in that window, and the top 12 are actually classified as, let's see if it has extreme persecution. Okay, the top 12 countries that are listed as extreme persecution are in that window. Okay, now, why am I bringing this up and why am I talking about Mexico? Okay, our neighbor to the south, because they're number 31. Now, the surprising thing to me was that they were just on the list, okay? But the fact that they're on the list as one of the worst offenders of persecution toward Christians, that I wasn't expecting until I dug deep. So the reason they're one of the worst offenders, the top, actually ranked number 31, isn't necessarily because of the government. The main reason Mexico is one of the worst offenders of persecution toward Christians is because of the narcos, the drug cartels, and the gangs around the country, which are probably wrapped up in the narcs as well. Okay? And here's why. The narcos want to go after the youth. They want to recruit them. They need people to deliver the drugs, to sell the drugs, to carry the drugs, whatever. They need people. So they want to manipulate them into their organization, I guess, and to use them as manpower. On the flip side, you have Christians. Now let me specify what type of Christian. Now I'm not talking about Christians who just want to live in a Christian bubble, okay? I'm not talking about them. Christians who want to live in a Christian bubble in Mexico, they're going to be fine. They're not going to be persecuted by these people because they're not doing anything, okay? They're just being Christian in a Christian community and just living a worldly life. Now, the Christians who are being persecuted are the ones who are reading the word and then doing the word. Okay, you see the difference? Those who are actually active Christians, people engaging their community, going out there and sharing the gospel, going out there and serving the poor, serving the youth. And that's where it's at, the youth. When churches and Christians and believers, pastors or non-pastors, go out there and they engage with the youth and show them a better way forward, it takes potential manpower away from the drug cartel and the gangs. And in an exchange, the drug cartels and the gangs are going after the Christians, persecuting, killing, whatever they have to do to get them to stop being a real, authentic Christian. Because if you're just sitting there doing nothing and you're just claiming to be Christian, well, I would argue that's not really Christian at all. Although in some parts of the world, actually my friends in the Middle East, they will say, yes, they're Christian, but they're not believers. Okay, you have Christian, you have believer. So let's just kind of use their definition. They are believers who are reading the word and then doing the word. And so yes, while Mexico being on the list was surprising, and their ranking was surprising, once I dug into the details, it actually made sense to me at that moment. Now, another surprising thing, the number 2 surprising thing about Mexico being on the list is where they ranked. And I say that because their ranking is worse than places like some places in the Middle East, like Oman, or their ranking was better than Turkey. Their ranking was better than half of Central Asia. Their ranking was worse than some countries in this world that I would assume was worse than Mexico. Yet because of the situation in Mexico with the drug cartels and the gangs and the way they're going after the youth and the way the churches are serving the youth simultaneously, and it's like a vying for influence in that particular population of the country, the results against Christians, against active Christians in Mexico is ranked worse than those in some parts of the Middle East, some parts of North Africa, and half of Central Asia. And so why am I bringing this up? Because as believers, as Christians around the world, whether you're in the US or somewhere outside the world, we need to be aware of where our persecuted brothers and sisters are located. And not just assume that some Christians in certain places are really not that persecuted, because they can be. Now, granted, there are places where people are crying foul and crying wolf that they're being persecuted. In reality, that's questionable. Those are questionable statements in certain countries, especially more democratic countries. But the reality is there is persecution. Some places are worse than others, but the persecution is real. And persecution isn't just handed down by the government or by religious groups, because in a large part of those 50 countries, that's exactly where it's coming from, either from the government or from radical religious groups within the countries. Not necessarily from drug cartels, but irregardless, persecution can come from anywhere. Jesus said if you follow him, you're going to be persecuted, because if they persecuted him, they will persecute the followers. And that's what I meant when I went back to talking about who are they persecuting Mexico? Not just Christians. They're persecuting believers, Christians who are actively engaging, reading the word, doing the word, going out there, living the word, the people who are actually following the Bible. Those are the ones being persecuted. The ones stuck in the bubble, the ones who want to protect themselves in the bubble, they're going to be safe for the most part, at least probably in Mexico. That's just my kind of interpretation of it. But at the same time, if they're wanting to live in a bubble, then the question is that bubble actually Christian? Even if they call it that. But let me know what you think in the comment sections, because I would love to know. And that way we can engage a little bit further. And please share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.